28th of October 2014. A very good evening. My name is Wavinya Wanyasa. We'll take a look at some of the stories making headlines. The Ebola effect. Kenyans from Liberia to be quarantined. We take a look at the Kenyan system of education. Just how effective is it? And climate change. World leaders meet in Copenhagen. Welcome. Now, measures have been put in place ahead of the expected arrival of the 12 Kenyans returning from the Ebola-hit West African nation of Liberia. Now, they are expected at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at about 11 p.m. aboard a chartered flight. We find out more.
The 12 are NGO staff who had trouble flying back home due to financial and logistical reasons, and it cost the government 5 million Kenya shillings to fly them back home. The national carrier Kenya Airways had already suspended flights to and from Liberia. The Kenya Red Cross will assist the Port Health Clinic with the monitoring and isolation of the passengers said to arrive in the country at midnight. Speaking on phone to WTV, the Secretary General of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Board, Dr. Sultani Matendechero, said, and I quote, "There is a need to minimize the level of public panic concerning the Ebola epidemic with a message of reassurance sent to the masses in order to avoid the shame of stigmatization by Kenyans to anyone presenting with the symptoms of Ebola." End of quote. Kenyans are encouraged to practice safety precautions like washing of hands in order to protect themselves from infection.
Every single Kenyan citizen must be told what needs to be done in the event of an outbreak, because this is the best way to fight the infection. If we don't have public education, we may as well forget tackling Ebola. If we don't teach the common wananchi how to handle a potential case, we may as well forget about it, because there are issues like safe burial. And in West Africa, a lot of the people who got infected at the moment of burying their dead. If we don't disseminate this information, how do we expect to safeguard the Kenyan wananchi?
Anyone who suspects to have symptoms of Ebola should immediately consult a doctor for isolation and treatment to avoid the spread of the disease in the country. Reporting for WTV News, I am Irene Galgalo.
And this story leads us to our feedback question of the evening. And we ask you, do you support the quarantine decision on Kenyans from Liberia? Do you support the quarantine decision on Kenyans from Liberia? Do SMS us your thoughts on 20058. We'll get to sample some of your thoughts and post them on our Facebook page, WTV Kenya. Moving on now, education is known as a very necessary tool in achieving one's goals in life. Now, considering the Kenyan system of education, we ask ourselves just how much of it is required for one to be thoroughly equipped for life.
Quality education enables people to develop attributes and skills to achieve their potential as human beings. In 1985, former President Daniel Arap Moi introduced the 844 system of education. With his introduction, CPE became Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and CSE became Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education.
The system has enabled our children to access top universities in the world and survive the test of time.
According to Omide, in 1964, the chairman of the first educational commission in the independent Kenya, education like society was stratified along racial lines. There existed African education, a European education, and an Asian education. Three separate systems divided by rigid boundaries. Since January 1985, public education in Kenya has been based on an 844 system. The examining body is mandated to test students after 8 years primary level and 4 years secondary level through the Kenya National Examinations Council, NEC. NEC then offers national exams to all students who register with the body. 844 has been the subject of national debate since its inception. It has been criticized for being broad, expensive, and burdensome to pupils and parents.
The 844 system I think it should be changed. I don't think it produces an all-round child and doesn't really focus on the skills.
When you teach somebody like engineering and you teach that pupil about engineering and what entails in engineering, that pupil can be in the future a good engineer.
I think we've had the debate and there are varied opinions regarding this system. One, they feel that it's denied, in an attempt to broaden that base, denied the young people the opportunity to really focus.
Governments and public authorities should ensure that its citizens get quality education from early childhood into adulthood. Reporting for WTV News, my name is Marianne Njeri.
Now, for years on end, air travel has widely been believed or perceived by many as a preserve for the elite and affluent in society. But that is set to change, especially so with the introduction of budget airlines such as Kenya Airways' recent entry jumbo jet. Now, Winnie Otieno highlights the latest industry intervention aimed at reducing and harmonizing regional airfare.
Airlines in the East African aviation industry are blaming the multiple and even taxes levied on the sector for the high cost and low level of air travel in the region. But this is not the case, according to the Minister of Transport, Engineer Michael Kamau.
We are of the opinion that removing the taxes, some of the taxes that were envisaged, has very little impact on the cost of the airfares. And this was done after very, very serious analysis, working with the airlines in the region and taking due cognizance of the impact that it would have.
Whereas taxes are often blamed for the high cost of air travel in the pricing of fares, other factors such as infrastructure, water, power and competition among airlines have a big impact on charges.
Along all those options, what we returned is that what is even clearly stated in the Heads of State Summit final declaration, to let the business work. And actually, our responsibility as government is simply to create a better environment for the business.
The governments of the East African countries are looking for an option to reduce the airfares. This will be clear on the next summit, scheduled to take place on the 11th of December 2014, where they will be signing a memorandum of understanding. With this initiative, it is expected that the region travel will grow. Reporting for WTV News, I'm Winnie Otieno.
Now, delegates from more than 100 governments and top scientists opened a week-long meeting in Copenhagen on Monday to approve and adopt the UN synthesis report. Now, the report aims at fighting climate change. Here's more on that story.
May I have the privilege of calling this session to order?
Over the past 13 months, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has released 3 reports as part of the 5th assessment report. The synthesis report is meant as a guide for nations working to fight climate change. The study will be published on November 2nd and is based on the physical science basis of climate change, on impacts, adaptation and vulnerability, and on mitigation of climate change. The Danish Minister of Climate, Energy and Building made the opening remarks.
Today we can measure the rising temperatures, the rising seas, and our rising insurance bills, and tomorrow we have to measure our rising debt to the future generations. As fossil fuel is burning, so is the platform underneath us. We can stop the fire or we can jump into the sea, and the first solution does cost money, and the second seems to be free, but it isn't.
The Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Christina Figueres, participated in the meeting through a video message saying that she was looking forward to the final results of this session, as the synthesis report is a crucial component to the 5th assessment report.
I look forward to the final results of this session, as the synthesis report is a crucial component of the complete AR5, which is proving to be the most up-to-date and influential scientific report on climate change ever released.
IPCC is the world body for assessing the science related to climate change. Kenya too has been playing a key role in fighting negative effects of climate change, including campaigns towards afforestation. Reporting for WTV, my name is Agnes Maina.
And in the world of sports, the Kenyan football scene has been braced with a lot of drama in the recent past. Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards are the top key teams in Kenya, but the recent hooliganism depicted by the two oldest clubs is worrying the football fraternity. Now, just how can this trend be reversed? We take a closer look at the issues affecting the most loved sport in Kenya.
Passion and loyalty are two virtues that go hand in hand. They are to blame for the recent fracas during the sports matches, football to be precise. Fans can go out of hand in expressing their loyalty and at times forced to use weird ways of showing their dissatisfaction at the opponent teams and even trigger fights, ignoring the consequences of their actions which kill the spirit of sportsmanship in the country.
I think football hooliganism, when you look all over the world, it's not new in Kenya, or it's just specific in Kenya as well. But largely you realize hooliganism is usually more so and often associated with football. Years back in the early 90s, we saw the English being one of the worst nation that had hooligans. But right now they've made a lot of progress, and they don't have incidents of hooliganism as before. In Kenya here, we've been trying to curb this, and though it always comes up once in a while, it's something that should be of the past, because the game is beautiful and we would expect that everybody comes in for entertainment and leave us either entertained very well and go back home. The main reason why you find that fans cause riot or anarchy is because they would expect the team to be winning. But when it comes to a point where they see that this is not coming forth, some of the rowdy fans or the hooligans seem to like to disrupt the matches, and that is totally wrong, because in sport there's always a winner, a loser, and for football there can't be a tie. And that is what our Kenyan fans should learn.
This has been the case with our very own teams during matches. There have been reported cases of the same. Scenes like these scare off people and even paint our Kenyan flag dirty, now that instead of enjoying a match in a calm manner, we have to be on our feet in fear of the ugliness that has been the outcome of each match in the recent era. So what can be done as a solution to this terrible trend, or rather, who is to blame on its existence in the first place?
I think it's an all-inclusive issue. It should start with the club itself, because the club is the one that makes or gets the fans to rally behind their club. So they should find a way of how they can engage the fans. Just try and educate them a bit on the laws of the game, what would happen, what the dangers of causing riots and crowd trouble in stadiums. And once they understand, they'll know that football is a lot of business. And when you riot, that means you'll be chasing away whoever sponsors you have on board, or anybody who was willing to come on board and will never want to come back in the stadium. What we are trying to work on right now is to see people coming in with families into the stadium. But the more they see the violent part of the sport, then everybody will shy away and brand the sport as a sport for hooligans, which is not the case. Football is indeed a beautiful game, and we do not want to see somebody lose their lives during football events or any other sporting event. So people should learn to lose honorably and celebrate when they win.
Well, and that's it from our news desk. Do have yourselves a good evening. My name is Wavinya Wanyasa.